Hi everyone, notwithstanding here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Miley Cyrus album, Plastic Hearts. This is the newest full-length LP from pop artist Miley Cyrus, a mainstream figure since her days as a child star and singer, eventually transitioning into an edgier image and series of records at the start of the 2010s. And while her music's usually doing numbers or generating discussion, I can't say I look back upon the past 10 years with a lot of positive Miley memories. We had the absolutely tame Can't Be Tamed, and following that there was all of the trying way too hard through the entire Bangers era. Then there was her demented Dead Pets project with the Flaming Lips, and of course she began playing it pretty mild on her Younger Now project, where she sort of went back to her country roots. So while up until this point you couldn't really peg me as a Miley fan, I still enjoyed the teasers to this new record. Midnight Sky, where she was really channeling this Stevie Nicks energy in a tasteful and effective way. And, you know, color me curious about the direction she's going in with this new LP too. Reviving the aesthetics of 80s pop rock and new wave, which in concept isn't exactly groundbreaking. These days you could really say it's quite trendy between Dua Lipa and Carly Rae Jepsen and The Weeknd and so many more. So yeah, there are a lot of 80s vibes floating around at the moment, but I do feel like Miley brings something special to this. For one, her vocal range really allows her to dominate those soaring choruses that defined the music of the era. And there's something also about the rasp and timbre of her voice that allows her to traverse into the edgier side of that era too. I don't think you need to look much further than the features from Joan Jett, Stevie Nicks, as well as Billy Idol to understand what Miley is going for here, which is a pretty specific thing and a good thing, a sound and a style that I think often goes underappreciated in the general 80s revivalism meta. So in my head, I'm thinking, why not give Miley a fair shake on this one, especially since it seems like she has the chops and the appreciation of the artists who spliced the DNA here. Now, my biggest critique of this record off the bat has to be that it's a tad bit overproduced, not nearly as raw as maybe I would like something to be in this vein, but it is a Miley record, so I kind of went into it expecting that to a degree. More often than not though, what's presented here is a pretty faithful retelling of 80s pop rock triumphs. The intro, What the Fuck Do I Know, is a great kickoff to this record, especially with that bass line. It's so groovy, it's so deep, and on top of it, Miley's vocals sound kinda mean. Plus the building beat, the hand claps, the acoustic break on the pre-chorus, and the roaring guitars on the hook. It's well structured, very meticulously put together, plus it's just a rowdy cut, especially as Miley's fiery leads just fly over that hook like an asteroid, a giant one, just cutting into Earth's atmosphere, getting ready to drop into and obliterate a major city. Like, how is Miley Cyrus rocking harder on this record than like Green Day did on their new LP? And they had the No Swedish Songwriters thing and everything. Now, sadly, the record's next two tracks seem to turn the heat down almost immediately. The title track at its core is a decent tune whose drama you could cut with a knife, even if all the heavily doctored and multi-tracked background vocals are a little grating and sound, well, plastic. Maybe the title was a warning, but honestly, outside of the solo and a few vocal passages, I really fail to see how this track reinforces the aesthetic that Miley seems to be going for because of the lead singles, because of the intro, because of the cover. So 2 tracks into Plastic Hearts and I'm feeling slightly hoodwinked already. The following, Angels Like You, is an even larger departure, with things going in a rootsy acoustic direction that feels left over from her last album. Or maybe something that even would have played over well on Lady Gaga's Joanne record. It's that grand singer-songwriter type balladry that Miley can pull off vocally, but sounds absolutely generic instrumentally. Thankfully, Prisoner with Dua Lipa goes a lot harder, although it does personally feel like Miley is trying to pull some of that future nostalgia juice onto her own LP here. The track even rocks a chorus that runs similar to that of Olivia Newton-John's Physical, which, if you remember, there was a track on Dua's record that kind of did the same thing. But now on the Miley record, we also have a bass line grooving away underneath the verses that sounds like something Sting would have laid onto an old Police record. For sure it's derivative, but I can't deny that the tune is solid, the production is top-notch, and there's definitely a chemistry there between Miley and Dua. The following Gimme What I Want tries to work a similar formula of edgy lyrics, rock aesthetics, and a dark, deep, groovin' bass line, but now we're getting this oddly pulsating beat with some gated snares. It certainly sounds 80s, but grooves a lot more like Nine Inch Nails Closer for some reason. It's a unique cross-section of influences, especially as the chic funk rhythm guitars slide into the mix in the very final leg of the song. But having said that, the chorus vocally is so dolled up and really so synthetic, it dulls whatever edge the track had going for it. Thankfully, Nightcrawling featuring Billy Idol has a lot more genuine grit to it. The chorus is an actual frickin' rager and only gets better in the second half as it introduces these gothy synth arpeggios. Even Billy Idol's feature on the track is great. The dude just has not lost it after all these years. I just don't have any complaints about this track. It's fantastic. A brooding piece of synthy dance pop that sounds like it's got a lot of eyeliner on, a black mesh shirt, some studded gloves. Then as we're transitioning out of the middle of the record with the song High, I can appreciate Miley wanting to throw in a slow burner after a few slappers, something that's more tragic in tone, but once again it feels like she loses the sonic narrative of the record in the process with more overblown pop balladry with a country twist. Meanwhile, the track Hate Me sticks out even more like a sore thumb, and this time the song isn't even good. It reads like a tacky piece of millennial pop with naughty but sentimental lyrics, writing an instrumental that sounds like 90s one-hit wonder singles. Thankfully, the true attitude of this record and the era that it's borrowing from returns on the song Bad Karma featuring Joan Jett, which effectively brings back the power of the heavy, simple drum intro, the building guitars, the groovin' bass line, and the sultry spotlit lead vocals. There's also all these sassy moans throughout the track that are a little weird, but they certainly work. Then great Joan Jett appearance, check. Badass chorus, check. Never Be Me is another slow burner, but the production and the synth layers laid throughout the track actually leave it feeling like it's from the era that Miley is predominantly borrowing from here. Plus, the lyrics about not being able to settle down or be that stable person for another person, I suppose in a romantic sense, is kind of moving, tragic, genuinely heartbreaking. The way the sentiment of the lyrics changes a bit after the epic bridge of the song seemed pretty smart too. Then the closer, Golden G-string, tries to create yet another sentimental moment on the LP between the 3/4 time and the chord changes. It's a little reminiscent of Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah. I think Miley and her producer and co-songwriter here, Andrew Wyatt, were definitely going for something in a similar vibe. The instrumental does undergo some pretty bland progressions across the runtime of the track, but the lyrics do tell an interesting and personal story of Miley's progression really over the 2010s, starting to use sexuality and her body to get her art and her music out there and the way that was perceived and derided. It's a telling and thoughtful moment on the LP for sure, and maybe one of the most frank songs Miley has ever put on record. And I gotta say, overall, I pretty much enjoyed this LP. I thought it was decent. Even though Miley is maybe doing a bit of stylistic cosplay here, I think she really brings back this sound with a lot of heart and a lot of passion. I think her and producers like Andrew Watt as well as Mark Ronson did a great job kind of pulling this thing together and capturing a vibe. Yeah, there were a couple of duds in the track list, and maybe some of the random country transitions didn't quite make sense for this particular LP, as much as we know Miley has a connection to that scene and that sound. But outside that, I can't really deny there were some good highlights on this LP, and in a way, I guess you could say it's my favorite Miley album. I'm feeling a strong 6 to a light 7 on this one. Tran. Zishin, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Miley Cyrus, forever.